The United States is considered one of the most prosperous nations in the world. With the world's most elite universities and some of the largest brands in the world, it is easy to see why.
But is this really true? Let's take a deeper look into America's inequality. Welcome to Trash Course.
The U.S.'s current claim to fame in economics is its huge GDP and high GDP per capita. Currently, the U.S. has the largest GDP in the world at $18 trillion. And while it's not first in GDP per capita at $57,500, it still has an advantage over the majority of the countries in the world.
On paper, citizens of the United States should be some of the happiest and wealthiest in the world. But with one of the lowest life expectancies and one of the most inequitable healthcare systems in the developed world, this is far from true.
Obviously, something is wrong, and it's not about the amount of wealth the U.S. has. So what's the problem? The answer?
Inequality. The world as a whole has experienced economic growth never seen before in human history. But this growth has come at the cost of allowing some to quickly propel forward at the expense of others being left behind. As Arthur Okun, an American economist, argues, societies cannot have perfect equality along with perfect efficiency, and one must be chosen as a trade-off with the other. And the US has chosen efficiency.
The growth of inequality isn't a uniquely U.S. problem. All around the world, countries have grown in their wealth, but have worsened or stagnated in terms of inequality.
But why is inequality so important? There are many different types of inequality, but we'll be focusing on income and wealth inequality. Income inequality is the unequal distribution of household or individual income across various participants in the economy.
Wealth inequality, however, refers to the unequal distribution of assets in a group of people.
Generally, income inequality is measured using the Gini coefficient, scaled from 0 to 1. A Gini coefficient of 0 means that wealth is completely equally distributed across the entire economy and everyone participating in it has the same amount of wealth. On the other hand, a Gini coefficient of 1 means that all the wealth in an economy belongs to only one person.
For example, both Ben and I can live in the same neighborhood in New York,
Yes, I love New York.
shop at the same grocery store around the corner, and have gone to the same university. But at the end of the year, Ben rakes in $30,000, while I come home with $500,000.
Wait, what?
This difference in income is what constitutes income inequality.
Okay, wait, how did I end up with the short end of this example?
It's just an example, Ben. Just suck it up. However, beyond this, I own $2 million in real estate, and when my parents die, I inherit $1 million of their assets.
Okay, Erika, this is getting kind of ridiculous.
Ben, on the other hand, won't inherit anything, and only has $5,000 in his bank account and a small studio apartment to his name. Sorta. His apartment is actually owned by his landlord.
There will most likely always be some sort of inequality in the world. But having inequalities at such high levels, like in the US, is detrimental to society. Imagine a ladder. This is capitalism. And it promises that if you work hard, you can climb the ladder right to the top. Each rung can mean anything from credit scores to collateral to basic human rights, such as access to healthcare, education, and personal security.
Each element is important to easily move up and down. However, growing systemic inequality means that the people at the top are stealing rungs from the bottom. This is great for the people at the top, but for those stuck at the bottom, it becomes near impossible to get out. This level of inequality becomes self-reinforcing, pushing more and more people to immobile poverty, while giving more and more wealth to the rich.
And that's how we end up in a situation where even though Erika and I got the same degree at the same school, her dad was able to land her a job at the top consulting firm in the city right away after graduation, while I had to work 3 part-time jobs just to start paying off my mountains of student debt.
Basically, inequality is the root of all evil. Sorta. But where is it coming from?
Right now, technology is taking most of the blame. But is it really true that technological progress is the main driver of rising inequality?
Technology has become so integrated into our lives that it's hard to imagine life without it. Think about Ben's normal Monday. He is woken up by his phone alarm and arises from bed around 10 a.m. He quickly pulls up his online notes 2 minutes before his online seminar. And when he is done, he orders an Uber and goes to a cafe.
Each of these tech items seem essential in making our lives more convenient and efficient. Because they are, and that's what makes them disruptors. And with all the good disruptors can do for our economy, ultimately, they also have negative consequences. As Thomas Piketty's central contradictory theory about capitalism states,
when the rate of return on capital exceeds the rate of economic growth, inequality tends to rise. Technology has increased efficiency and growth in certain sectors to unprecedented levels at a pace faster than what the economy can keep up with, causing inequality to rise at a similar rate and driving the incomes and opportunities of those at both ends of the ladder further apart.
For example, think about Gary Wayne and his self-driving cars. If Uber and other companies do lead the way to self-driving cars, then Gary Wayne will start receiving lower wages or be completely cut as a necessary cost to the company.
or perhaps think of Sarah Kate, who specializes in creating parts for oil rigs. With Tesla and other companies creating electric cars that are powered by solar energy, there's no longer a need for her specialized skill or her company.
Technological progress is disruptive and almost always will cause a shift in the labor market, displacing jobs. These displaced people will most likely not find a job with the same specialized skill, now that technology has replaced the need. These people will be unable to get a job of equal pay and most likely be forced to take a lower skill, lower paying job, forcing them and their family into a lower economic level, or even poverty, just adding to the inequality effect that's happening across the world.
Now this is the argument that many politicians are making when explaining rising inequality in the world. However, technology is not purely evil, nor is it purely good. It would be unrealistic to declare all technological progress in the world to be stopped. Technological progress is like a really heavy storm. Its heavy winds can cause trees to fall and damage houses, but we can also build stronger houses and infrastructure to protect most of the down, or even creatively utilize naturally strong winds to create some natural and clean energy. Bottom line is, technology is a storm that cannot be stopped. And while it can take away the need for some specialized skills, it can create the demand for many more, creating jobs and helping the general public.
The challenge we need to deal with is not technological progress. It's the institutions that enable these new technologies to be a positive or negative force.
Now, back to the US. The country has both steep income and wealth inequality. In fact, it has the highest inequality among all the rich countries. While it has the richest GDP, the percentage of wealth the middle class owns is steeply lower than other developed countries at 20%. This low share of wealth starts to make sense when you look at the top 5%ers' wealth, which is more than 90 times larger than the median household.
This deep inequality is again reflected in the US's income distribution. The bottom 50% have only about 20% of the income share, while the top 10% have around 40% of the income share. This inequality doesn't seem to be on the verge of changing if the US continues on its current course. From 1980 to 2014, the top 0.001% pre-tax income growth was marked at 616%, while the bottom 20%'s income increased by a mere 4%.
After seeing these numbers, many people tend to point fingers at technological progress. The US is known for Silicon Valley companies with Google, Facebook, Tesla, and more filling up that area of California and churning out innovation for the rest of the world. More specifically, the US has been creating technology that automates a lot of tasks. Automation greatly increases efficiency and productivity as it works tirelessly and precisely and is most likely a one-time purchase.
This is great for the success of the company and the economic growth of the country. In terms of production, machines are able to output a lot more than humans and at an accelerated speed. For transportation, if self-driving cars and other types of transportation are fully realized, trucks will be able to drive through the night without brakes and have less risk of accidents.
All things equal, this seems great for the economy, as now companies can output more and serve their customers better. And for this reason, technology has led to a growing US economy, keeping it at the top spot in the entire world.
However, this upgrade comes at a great cost. People who specialized in that job will become displaced. Coming back to Gary Wayne from before, self-driving cars will make his spot at his company unnecessary, and any other company that wants to be competitive. Truck driving will just become an unnecessary skill. However, Gary Wayne has been a truck driver all his life and hasn't developed any other skills.
At the moment, the US does not seem to be reacting well to this issue at all, as the only mechanisms to keep from rising inequality are a few welfare programs and unemployment benefits. These programs are designed to keep a person afloat when they're looking for a new job, not heal the wounds of having your complete skill set replaced by automation.
So while Gary Wayne will eventually find a job, it'll probably be lower income and will drop him to a lower socioeconomic level, just contributing to the growing inequality in America.
So now you're probably thinking, there's gotta be a better way. Well, good news is, there is. Let's take a look at Japan, a country that was economically and infrastructurally decimated after World War II, but now, 50 years later, is one of the world leaders in tech advancement and one of the most equal societies in the entire world with a Gini coefficient of 32.1.
How are they doing it? Well, high taxes are a great way to redistribute income in equal and productive ways, such as universal healthcare, education, and welfare programs. In addition, high inheritance taxes ensure that inequality isn't a cycle that sustains through many generations. But it's not just taxation. They have a secret weapon.
Ooh, plot twist.
Their skilled workforce. With the Meiji Restoration starting in 1868, Japan had realized that it was lagging in terms of industrialization and needed to create serious reform to not be left behind. Seeing the difference in knowledge as the main gap between Japan and the other advanced Western countries, Japan upturns its education system, introducing mandatory and free schooling for all. In addition, the country sent foreign nationals to Western countries in order to learn the tacit knowledge needed to build the same industrial innovations from the ground up. Using the nationwide education and the tacit industrial knowledge, Japan was able to quickly rise up as a global power that other Western nations respected and recognized.
And it's not just policies and governmental programs, Erika. There's also a cultural explanation for Japan's low inequality. Japan has quite an egalitarian society, meaning that not only is equality promoted, inequality is largely frowned upon. This means that there are no Japanese celebrities flaunting their newest sports car on social media or multi-million-dollar mansions with the sole purpose of showing off. Cultural ideals like this could shed light on the government's reasonings for high taxes, to level the playing field for everyone to collectively participate and feel like an active participant in society.
Similarly, in Norway, equality is seen as a cultural value and is shown to be highly successful as seen by the low Gini coefficient of 25.9. In one study done by the Norwegian School of Economics, Americans were shown to be much more accepting of inequality, while Norwegians were very much against it. It is very much within Norwegian culture to give everyone an equal opportunity and equal chance at success.
But don't just take it from us. Here's Sherrington from Norway to tell us a little bit about his culture's view on inequality and the institutions in place to ensure economic growth at low rates of inequality.
Hey, my name is Sherrington. I'm 20 years old and I'm from Norway. There's a big sense of community in the culture. This has a thing called janteloven, which is an unwritten norm in Norway, Sweden, I would say Denmark as well, which is that you shouldn't think you're better than anybody else and you're not supposed to show off your success. There's always been this value to include everybody, and it's a result of a strong worker movement after the Second World War that managed to build up a social infrastructure that supports everybody regardless. If you lose your job, you get 80% of your wage to help support yourself find a new job, because there's no point in having someone lose their job and end up in a job where they cannot achieve the fullest.
Based on the case studies of Norway and Japan, there are obvious gaps in America's current system, inhibiting its ability to control its expanding inequality. Most notably, America needs to change its cultural and psychological stances towards inequality, education in terms of skill training, and taxation.
Each of these problems identified is very important to address, but we should not forget about the cultural context in America. If you approach any of these problems with a misunderstanding of the complexities of the social systems that have caused them in the first place, you could create a technically flawless solution, but still be rejected by the public, causing no effect or even making things worse.
With this in mind, let's dive into our first problem, taxation. Taxation is one of the easiest and most blunt tools in dealing with inequality because it is a direct redistribution of wealth, taking from those who have well over enough and giving back to those who have not near enough.
However, redistribution is often seen as a dirty word in the US and something to be avoided. Taxation has become politically charged and divided the nation, even though many do not realize the implications of having such low taxes. So, even though we should push to use this one tool that directly deals with inequality, progress will likely be slow on this front, and we should focus instead on attacking inequality from multiple sides.
Next is education. Technology is currently replacing mid-skill level jobs, pushing this population into a lower socioeconomic level. So a natural solution is to train for higher skilled jobs the technology is creating. But this education reform has to come on two levels. First, a reactive policy to retrain those displaced by tech progress and teach them skills that help them transition into a new economy. And second, a proactive approach to reform the education curriculum to teach children the practical skills they need to be adaptable in this modern economy.
Currently, any worker who can be replaced by technology will simply be dropped and left behind. But it is the government's responsibility to ensure that they can find a living even through all the changes. Because of this, a policy to either directly put more money into workforce skill training or to incentivize companies to run more thorough training programs must be implemented. One possible way of doing this is by making it harder for companies to fire employees. This will increase employee retention and make it more worthwhile for companies to thoroughly train their new hires. In addition, the government should provide services to complement these skill training programs, with services such as healthcare or other unemployment benefits to give the citizens the space and the time they need to retrain and enter another high-skilled job instead of being forced to pick up multiple part-time jobs that are low-paying and takes up all of their free time.
While the skill retraining deals with the problem of initial displacement, as seen by the example of Japan, instilling essential tacit knowledge in the youth sets a strong foundation and is valuable for any economy. Specifically, America's current education system hasn't experienced major reforms since the 19th century, not updating its model to a 21st century world. Many hours are wasted shallowly learning topics that don't directly apply to the new market or even learning at all. The U.S. education system should better integrate curriculum that allows for more adaptability in a constantly changing world, and train for skills that will be immensely valuable on a high level and not easily replaced by technology. By bypassing the mid-level skills that are slowly being replaced, the youth can be further nurtured in the skills that will push them up the social ladder and guarantee them a higher income. Fewer people will be left behind and forced to join the poorer, low-skilled workers, closing more of the inequality in the future.
Lastly, we have to change the social and cultural attitude of America towards inequality. And to do this, we recommend using one of the largest drivers of culture in America, the media.
In today's social media-filled world, nothing is more effective than online media in changing widespread public opinion. Now, we know this is a little bit of a wild card because we can't exactly control the media, but we have seen multiple instances in which the media has brought attention to issues that would normally not see the light of day and completely alter public perceptions.
Build that wall.
We recommend the government, NGOs, and public media organizations to create more awareness about the extent of inequality and the damages it does to the nation and its people. By giving people a view of what life is like at the bottom of the ladder, the government could create more empathy in the American society, encouraging a culture of fairness and egalitarianism that could further accelerate policies of education reform, skill retention, and taxation.
These policies are quite complex and will take a long time to implement, but it is a start and a very necessary one at that.
With a quick glance, it is easy to see the damages income inequality has done to our societies. Rising poverty, decreasing life expectancy, and rising unemployment peaks from around the corner. And the storm of technological progress has completely changed the playing field.
However, hope is not lost. As we have seen with the power of a skilled workforce in Japan and the impact of cultural attitudes in Norway, changes can be made for the better. And with brilliant people like Professor Davis leading the new generation of economists, the future looks bright.
With technological progress faster than anyone can control, we have to remember, we are all living in the same world, climbing the same ladder. And true humanity is ensuring that no one is left behind.